Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out for the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a ton of huge news to brief you all on today. Today's date is June 23rd, 2025, and it's Monday. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you guys all had an awesome weekend. I know I did, and I'm ready to get right into the news today. We've got a lot of news to cover in today's update. We're going to start out with brand new information out of Russia as Russian President Vladimir Putin, as you see here on your screen, was announcing the serial production of the Oreshnik medium-range ballistic missile. So we'll start with this story here on your screen. Putin says Russia's Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile has now entered mass production. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Monday that Russia is stepping up production of its Oreshnik intermediate-range hypersonic missile, which it launched into Ukraine last November. So if you guys remember that, this thing has struck Ukraine before. The city of Dnipro was hit by it back in November, just about, 7 or 8 months ago or so. It looks like the Russians could be firing more of these into Ukraine here very soon, and maybe even with a real warhead on it. As last time we didn't really see that happening, but they did test fire this thing, and it was successful and did strike Dnipro. So not good news for Ukraine. Looks like we're going to see more of these going into Ukraine here very soon. And hopefully that won't be the case, but it looks like the Russians are preparing to start launching more of these. This is actually the second time we've heard from the Russians that this thing is entering serial production. I think Putin announced this a few months back also, if you guys remember that. So we'll talk more about that here in just a moment. We also have some information that Ukraine was heavily attacked last night. 352 drones went into Ukraine. Ukrainian air defense teams shot down majority of them, but we did have some damage, especially in Kiev and also down in Odessa, southwestern part of the country. Both those cities being heavily shelled. We had ballistic missiles being fired as well. I think somewhere around 16 missiles entering into Ukraine. And also the Ukrainian military also carried out a strike in the Rostov Oblast on the Atlas oil depot. And we have reports today that NASA fire maps are indicating that there was a massive fire over there, probably due to Ukrainian drone attacks. So I'll show you guys that information as well. It's the first time we've heard of a oil depot or oil refinery being hit in some time now. So let's go to jump into this. We're going to hop on over here to X with Mario Nawfal. Putin says Russia's unstoppable hypersonic missile now in mass production. Putin says Russia is now churning out Oreshnik missiles, a hypersonic weapon he claims is unstoppable and combat proven in Ukraine. He ordered its first use in November after Ukraine hit Russian territory with Western supplied missiles. With a 5,500 kilometer range, it can reportedly reach anywhere in Europe and parts of the US. Though Western experts say pump the brakes, it's probably still experimental. Putin says it's got the destructive power of a nuke, but the Pentagon isn't breaking a sweat just yet. It is believed that he may base them in Belarus, just next door to NATO, sources Reuters. Yeah, Reuters was actually reporting this today. It's kind of like a diagram showing this Oreshnik missile and how it works. It says Russia's new missile Oreshnik. You can see the different stages here, first stage, second stage. So it goes out of the Earth's atmosphere and then back in. It's got multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. I think six warheads in total once it comes back into the atmosphere, and it can strike in multiple locations. We actually saw that when the Russians fired this before. So it says here maximum speed over Mach 10, 12,300 kilometers per hour, 7,610 miles per hour, or 3.40 kilometers per second. Okay, so just kind of indicating here how powerful this thing can be and how fast it flies. So we probably will be seeing more of these being fired into Ukraine, I would assume, sometime maybe by the end of the year or maybe next year, if Russia is now throwing these into serial production. Now from Oriana Lila, in Kiev Solymyansky district, it's absolute hell. Drones are breaking through one after another, striking almost the same spots, local media reports out of Kiev. So the capital of Ukraine heavily attacked last night. This video is going to show a destruction of a drone crashing into what looks like maybe somebody's house over here in Kiev. Take a look. All right, so just a quick clip, but it looks like we had a massive explosion over here just behind that high-rise apartment building here. So that drone definitely crashed into something over here in Kiev. We had a lot of drones entering into the capital overnight. I've got numerous videos and pictures we can show you guys. Seems like this is almost a daily thing now inside of Kiev. Now, for more translated, Russia is a terrorist state that continues to lie and tries to present itself in a favorable light. And here's a report. It says tonight the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out a group strike with high precision weapons and attack unmanned aerial vehicles on enterprises of the military industrial complex of Ukraine in the Kiev region, the infrastructure of a military airfield, and the arsenal of mine torpedo weapons of the Ukrainian Navy. The strike targets have been achieved. All designated objects have been hit. This was from the Ministry of Defense out of Russia, okay? So their defense ministry reporting they went after only military targets, but yet look at this picture right here coming out from Kiev last night. We've got another high-rise building here being struck. This is most likely a drone. Could have been a missile as well due to how much damage we're looking at here. I'm not really sure what it was. I know for sure there was a missile that struck down in Odessa, but Kiev, I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, massive damage to this building here. We had reports today that I believe 9 people so far, last I heard from the BBC, they were reporting people that have lost their lives, and about 34 injured so far, and those numbers are expected to climb as people are found underneath rubble like what we see here with this building being directly struck. So very horrifying news. Now from Yaroslav Trofimov, this is what happens when the U.S. withholds air defenses because it doesn't want to upset the killers in the Kremlin. And he put out a post here last night from Irina Voyshuk, and it says Kiev these minutes. So I'm going to show you guys another video here of a drone smashing into a building in Kiev last night. Take a look at this. Once again, the Russians tormenting Kiev with drones and missiles, and we're starting to see this is becoming almost a daily thing. And, you know, we're not seeing a whole lot of coverage on this war over here right now. A lot of my sources really are covering the Middle East, if I be honest with you guys. They are putting out some information about Ukraine, but most people are focused on what's happening over the Middle East right now, while Ukraine is just being battered nightly by hundreds of drones and missiles. Repeatedly almost every day right now. So we're seeing some of the most major attacks on Ukraine in the history and duration of this war. Yet, for the most part, a lot of people not even covering it, which is kind of sad. So that's why I'm trying to do that the best I can for you guys. Now from Bliskovka, 9 people, including an 11-year-old girl and her 41-year-old mother, were killed in a Russian strike in Kiev's Shevchenkivsky district. Rescues are still sorting through the rubble, which may still have people under it. So this is a picture of that high-rise apartment building actually that got hit. You can see major damage over here. Looks like a tree got ripped out of the ground right there too. Up here on the top right corner of your screen, that's actually where either that missile or drone had hit. I'm thinking it was a missile, but I'm not 100% sure. But it definitely struck this building, and we've got lots of firefighters here on the scene rescuing people during the time of the morning when after this strike occurred, okay? Now, for more translated, militants from the terrorist group Russia carried out a combined strike on Kiev last night, killing at least 6 people and injuring dozens more, including children in the Shevchensky district. The blast leveled an entire apartment block entrance. Help Ukraine where you can. See, here's another report talking about this same building here as well. Here's just firefighters when they showed up on the scene to put out some of the fires that were started after this strike was carried out. Very sad, guys. Now from Kolan. After bombing a maternity hospital last week, Russia now just hit a school in Odessa, killing and injuring multiple people. A maternity hospital and a school. Total sadism. All right, so this is going to be down in southwestern Ukraine, okay? We had what I believe is considered a lyceum. That's what Ukraine calls it. It's pretty much an educational institution or a school that was hit here, and I believe this was a missile that was used to strike this building, and there was people inside. Now, because it's summertime, a lot of the kids they're out, so they're not here at the schools attending right now. But there was staff inside of this building from what I heard, and there were people killed and injured inside of this building after it was struck. So it was just absolutely horrible news, guys. So sad to see this, what's happening inside of Ukraine. And again, the Russians are claiming they go after military infrastructure, but this is clearly not military infrastructure. This is a school inside of Odessa. Now from Jurgen Audit, Tusk hasn't written anything about the war in Ukraine for 2 months. Merz hasn't written anything about the war in Ukraine for 5 days. Macron hasn't written anything about the war in Ukraine for 5 days. Starmer hasn't written anything about the war in Ukraine for 5 days. Ursula von der Leyen hasn't written anything about the war in Ukraine for 6 days. Ukraine has been attacked by at least 1,267 Russian drones and 57 missiles in the last 6 days. So I just wanted to show you guys this information right here. We've seen this picture numerous times already. But yeah, he's basically just stating that, nobody's covering this topic anymore. Okay, these are top leaders out of Europe that are not even mentioning anything of what's going on in Ukraine right now. And obviously, a lot of it is due to what's happening in the Middle East. Again, I've been telling you guys pretty much all my X feed is just nothing about Ukraine and all about the Middle East right now. That's what everybody's focused on because of these strikes onto Iran that happened over the weekend. And everybody's been waiting for a potential World War III to break out from that, if that's ever going to happen. Hopefully that wouldn't be the case. But no one's really covering Ukraine. And then all these top leaders, why are they not mentioning anything of what's happening here in Ukraine? I'm reporting to you guys almost every day these massive strikes throughout the last week onto Ukraine, okay? Basically since Israel started attacking Iran. So very sad, guys, and no one's really covering this right now, and top leaders are not mentioning anything about Ukraine right now. Now from Max 25 on Troshina in Kiev, part of a missile lies in the middle of a yard. Here's a picture of a missile that was found just laying here in somebody's street yard here on a sidewalk is what it looks like to me in front of homes. Looks like cars or something right over here. So right in front of homes, a missile was just found laying there. I mean, imagine your little kid just running outside and there's a missile just laying there in the yard. Just absolutely horrible information coming out, guys. Now from Anton Oreshnik, the Kremlin's regime has intensified its strikes on Ukraine. Putin stopped discussing diplomacy and now dreams dreams about the feat of Russia's soldiers on new lands. Russia launches ballistic missiles and drones on Ukrainian cities on the center of Kiev and hospitals, universities, residential buildings. Russia kills civilians in Europe. Kremlin's regime is truly a grave danger. They don't care for diplomacy. This is an axis of evil. Russia is the evil. Evil that has ballistic missiles, drones, nuclear weapons. Putin is a war criminal. Europe is able to close the sky over Ukraine and shoot down Russian missiles. Ukraine turned into destroyed and scorched earth, won't be able to continue defending Europe. I mean, yeah, guys, we're seeing massive destruction in Kiev, and this is something that even top military commanders have been warning about. They've been actually telling people to start fleeing Kiev because it's going to start getting hammered heavily, and we are seeing that right now. This is 1 minute clip of damage inside of Ukraine. Take a look.
Куда їх там? Вон вікно, обережно дивіться під ноги, тут багато битого скла. Дивіться під ноги, будь ласка.
All right, so we've got some video here of these brave men and women, these firefighters that are out rescuing people trapped in these buildings after this massive strike last night. And I call them brave men and women because sometimes the Russians carry out double tap strikes where they'll strike the same area after emergency crews show up. So, imagine these people are risking their lives out here to help others that are trapped inside of buildings, knowing another missile could be coming and landing directly on their head. So there's a video coming out from Ukraine today. Now for Max 25, Russia has a new shelling tactic. First they launch drones, and after silence sets in when people come out of hiding, they fire missiles, says the Interior Minister Klemenko. So the Russians are constantly changing their tactics, not to just go after, Ukrainian airfields and whatnot, but actually to go after Ukrainian civilians. Okay, this is something we've seen before. They changed their tactics with these drones. So what they're starting to do now, apparently, is they're firing drones. Then soon after, when the silence comes in, that's when they start launching these missiles and hammering areas of Ukraine to obviously scare people even more and make them feel like they probably can't even come out of hiding at all. And imagine these strikes are probably going on for hours at a time, maybe 4 or 5 hours or more. People are stuck down in the metro stations trying to stay safe. So just crazy what the Russians are doing to Ukrainians. Now, for NOAA reports, Ukrainian drones struck the Atlas facility in Rostov Oblast, part of Russia's state reserve system. Atlas stores and supplies strategic materials like fuel, lubricants, food, and tech gear. Firms fires are observed. Okay, so this is actually the second time in the last like 6 months or so that Ukraine attacked this facility, maybe more than that. Could have been 2 or 3 times by now. But yeah, this is a NASA fire map showing a major fire here at the facility. Here's a picture of what it looks like on Google Maps. Yeah, Ukraine has struck it before. I've seen video footage coming out of this place on fire. Unfortunately, today we don't have any video footage just yet, but there might be something coming out here over the next 24 hours or so. So if I get that information, I will show it to you guys. But allegedly, Ukraine carried out a strike here on the Atlas oil depot once again in the Rostov Oblast of Russia. This is going to be like southwestern Russia, close to the Krasnodar Krai region. Now, from Anton Gerashenko, Putin said that NATO was provoking global militarization and inventing some possible invasion of Europe by Russia. He said that in response, Russia will continue to develop its armed forces and strengthen the security of Russia. This is the second time in a few days that Putin himself speaks of this. Of course, we all know too well that when Russia promises it won't attack, this mostly means the opposite. Today, Putin de facto openly stated that Russia will continue putting its economy on military rails and ramp up its war machine. Putin gives the perfect excuse that this is in response to NATO's militarization. In fact, it is the other way around. Exactly the other way around, excuse me. NATO started increasing its military capacity in response to Russia. I've written before that Russia has no interest in its soldiers returning home. Consequently, an attack on Europe will only look logical. They will find excuses and justifications. Putin must be stopped. Russia must be stopped. Ukraine must be given all the support and resources we need. A rebuilt, Europe integrated Ukraine with our incomparable military experience will be the strongest defense for Europe. Time is playing against Europe. Hurry up. Putin doesn't waste time. Yeah, so tomorrow actually is going to be the NATO summit at The Hague, okay, on the 24th, I think, and the 25th. Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, the NATO summit will be held, and we're going to be hearing that NATO members are going to be upping their defense spending to 5% across the board, and they're doing this in response to Russia attacking Ukraine, and they're afraid that Russia might attack them as well because Russia's ramping up their defense industry, right? Well, we got Putin here coming out and saying that, well, now because NATO's doing this, now because NATO's, ramping up their production of arms, we're going to have to do the same thing and prepare for NATO to attack us, basically. Now NATO's going to be the threat to us. So kind of justifying, well, now they can, ramp up their arms production even more because now NATO's a threat. So now it's a back and forth thing here. I just want you guys to see this real quick. It's got subtitles.
Мы знаем и то, что на ближайшем саммите НАТО планируется объявить о начале масштабной программы по дальнейшему наращиванию возможностей Альянса. Для ее реализации будут увеличены военные бюджеты стран НАТО. Между тем, участники блока уже сейчас тратят на военные цели больше всех государств мира вместе взятых. Из этого ясно, кто на самом деле это провоцирует глобальную милитаризацию и гонку вооружений. Обосновывая свои планы, руководство Альянса вновь твердит о какой-то угрозе со стороны России, о каком-то нашем возможном вторжении в Европу. Сами себе придумали эту страшилку и повторяют ее из года в год, для того, чтобы обманывать свой собственный народ и вытаскивать из него деньги. Однако и здесь мы вновь сталкиваемся с привычной и беспардонной ложью. Учитывая рост геополитической напряженности, будем и дальше принимать адекватные меры по укреплению безопасности России и наших союзников. Развивать наши вооруженные силы как гарантию суверенного и независимого развития России.
All right, so we're definitely going to see an arms race here. Russia is massively producing weapons right now in this war effort against Ukraine. He's now announcing basically that they're going to be ramping it up even more due to what NATO is doing right now. NATO is going to be announcing a massive rearmament, also 5% of GDP defense spending for all nations in NATO across the board, okay? They're going to be producing a lot of weapons as well. So we're going to be seeing an arms race here moving forward, and Putin is basically warning NATO they're going to be doing the same exact thing. They're going to be producing a lot of weapons. Now we're going to have an arms race. So Putin pretty much has taken advantage of the situation, and now they're going to be increasing their supply of arms as well. So not good news. Now for Max 25, EU countries and Canada will provide Ukraine with 35 billion euros in military aid in 2025, it says NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. If Russia attacks us today, our response will be devastating. We still believe that Ukraine's path to NATO is irreversible. So this is what Mark Rutte stated today. He was holding a conference, as tomorrow, again, we're going to be having this whole NATO summit going on at The Hague tomorrow. And yeah, this is what was been announced. So Mark Rutte is saying that 35 billion euros in total of aid is going to be going to Ukraine in 2025 this year. And again, warning Russia, don't attack NATO or our response will be devastating. And on top of that, still saying that Ukraine's path to NATO is irreversible, that at some point, Ukraine will be able to get into NATO. Okay, so that's good news for Ukraine. Now for Bliskovka, Vladimir Zelenskyy meets with King Charles III at Windsor Castle during his visit to the UK, Reuters reports. The president is also scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Starmer, speakers of both houses of parliament, and Ukrainian military personnel undergoing training in the UK. So yeah, we had Zelenskyy here meeting today at the UK. He'll be meeting with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. Here's a picture of him meeting with King Charles III at Windsor Castle. And yeah, there was apparently a statement he made today while he was there. He actually called Russia, Iran, and North Korea the coalition of killers. That's something he stated in a conference over there today. I think it was BBC that was reporting on that. So yeah, he referred to all three of them as a coalition of killers, as they're all contributing to this war effort against Ukraine and killing Ukrainian civilians, which we repeatedly see every day with Shahed drones coming from Iran. The North Koreans have the KN-23 ballistic missiles that they're giving over to Russia. On top of that, they have their own troops over there. They've got all kinds of other weaponry, artillery guns, you name it, being given to the Russian military to use against Ukrainians. So that's what he stated today while he was in the UK. Now, Max 25, they wanted to kill Zelenskyy in Poland at the Rzeszów airport. SBU chief Vasyl Malyuk reported. Several options were considered. One of them was an FPV drone, the other was a sniper complex. There were two assassination attempts on President Zelenskyy at the airport in Polish Rzeszów and directly in presidential office, according to Malyuk. Poland, the murder was prepared by a retired military man, a Pole who was recruited decades ago and who sacredly believed in the Soviet idea and nurtured the intention over the years. Kiev presidential office, a colonel of the State Security Service of Ukraine, was involved in the scheme. The assassination attempt was prepared right in the government quarter. The SBU worked on this case for almost 2 years. They discovered a group that not only planned to liquidate Zelenskyy, but also collected data on Budanov and Malyuk himself. Okay, so we've got Vasyl Malyuk. Okay, he's the SBU chief. This is him right here in the photo, actually, on the right side of your screen. And he was reporting today that there's been multiple attempts that sometimes involved Ukrainians to eliminate Volodymyr Zelenskyy and assassinate him. That apparently this happened in Rzeszów, at the airport in Poland, and also even in the presidential office in Kiev. So that's crazy news. Like, I'm sure this has happened before, and imagine how many times we had plots like this that were foiled. And thankfully, Zelensky's still around, okay? And if any of these were to be successful, he wouldn't be here right now, and that would probably create major destabilization inside of Ukraine, considering they're at war with Russia right now. But yeah, this is what Vasyl Malyuk was reporting today, that at least 2 times over the years we've had potential assassination attempts on Zelenskyy. Let me know what you think of that story down below. Now, for more translated, the head of Security Service of Ukraine reveals new details about the Operation Spiderweb. According to Vasyl Malyuk, a total of 117 drones were used in the operation to destroy the enemy's strategic aviation. There were unique strike UAVs equipped with 1.6 kilograms cumulative fragmentation charges, meaning the drone burns through the aircraft's body and explodes inside, causing maximum damage to the target. The targets were missile carriers. The drones aimed primarily at fuel tanks, avionics, and missile mounting points. The operation took one year, 6 months, and 9 days to prepare, starting in November 2023. The people who built the houses or drone casings didn't know they were for aircraft. Those who transported them also weren't informed of the mission's purpose. Russian customs officers had to be bribed to get the equipment through. Everything was kept strictly secret, excuse me. Only the president and one SBU officer were aware of the details. So that's crazy. These are just new details coming out on this operation. So Russia's customs officers were bribed to get all this equipment through. The drivers of these trucks, obviously, we knew that they did not know what these like mobile homes that they were pretty much transporting were. They didn't know that they were converted into attack vehicles to launch drones out of to go after these strategic airfields. And even the drone components, the people putting them together didn't know what they were going to be used for also, apparently. So that's just some new information coming out, showing some details here on this strike mission on the airfields that happened a few weeks back. Now, Max 25, the new Ukrainian ballistic missile Sapsan will reach Moscow. Yermak stated that its production is going very well. The missile has already proven itself in combat. It hits targets at a distance of up to 300 kilometers and carries 480 kilograms of explosives. Its real range can reach 500 kilometers. Okay, so there's a new report from Andriy Yermak, the head of the presidential office of Ukraine. He works right under Volodymyr Zelenskyy. This is a picture of the Sapsan ballistic missile system out of Ukraine. And what's being reported here is this missile can reach Moscow. So that's crazy. Imagine if Ukraine starts firing this over there at targets inside of Moscow. The Russians are not used to seeing missiles coming into their city like Ukraine is. So that could cause massive terror for the Russians. And, we'll see what happens here soon when Ukraine starts deploying this thing. And what we've been hearing is they're getting good success out of this missile unit. And they've already used it several times in combat missions and have struck their targets perfectly. So we'll see what happens when they start deploying this more on the field. Looks like we're going to be seeing more of these flying into Russia soon. Now, NOAA reports Russia often returns bodies of fallen Ukrainian soldiers in horrific conditions. Sometimes it's just a bag of bones. Maxim Skridis, sorry guys, kind of struggled to try to pronounce his name there, first deputy chief and the head of the main investigation department of the National Police, revealed. And in some cases, remains of different individuals are mixed in one sack. Okay, so this is him right here speaking at a conference. So pretty much their national police, the head of their national police, is reporting that the Russians, when they're giving these bodies back of fallen defenders inside of Russia that are Ukrainian soldiers, that sometimes they're just giving a bag of bones back. I mean, why would there be literally a bag of bones? It makes you wonder if they're like burying these soldiers and over time they're exhuming them, or what's going on there. And apparently some of these bags of bones are having a mixture of bodies in there, sometimes even Russian remains. And we've been hearing about that. There was a story just a couple days ago over the weekend, I think it was either Saturday or Friday, that the Russians had returned some bodies to Ukraine, and there was actually a Russian soldier mixed in the group of those bodies, that he was literally even wearing his Russian uniform, and on top of that he had a Ukrainian uniform. So somebody put that on him while they delivered that body back to Ukraine, and that was actually a Russian soldier. So crazy news. We continue to hear from that. Now, war translated, Hungary and Slovakia have blocked the adoption of the 18th sanctions package against Russia. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó reports. Just two old roosters. All right, so we've got these two countries here, Hungary and Slovakia, once again, very pro-Russian. They are trying to block, or have blocked, excuse me, the adoption of the 18th sanctions package that the EU is trying to release onto Russia again. Now, I'm not sure if the EU can get around that. I think they might be able to, but I'm not 100%. But we'll see how that turns out. But it looks like, again, these two same countries in the EU are blocking the adoption of this resolution for an 18th package of sanctions onto Russia. This sanctions package is supposed to be pretty heavy. It's supposed to go after like the banking sector inside of Russia, their oil economy, or the oil sector. It's supposed to put heavy damage onto Russia, unlike a lot of the other packages in the past. But we'll see how this goes here in the future. Now, military news UA, development of Ukrainian missiles for NASAM's air defense system will be financed by Norway, Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov reported today. Okay, so this is very good news. Norway is going to be financing NASAM's air defense missiles, okay, inside of Ukraine. So these will be domestically produced missiles inside of Ukraine for these NASAM's air defense systems. And we know Ukraine uses a lot of these that are used to shoot down incoming targets into their nation. This is a picture of one of these NASAMS air defense systems right here. And yeah, good news. Norway is going to be helping out producing these missiles directly inside of Ukraine. Now, from next to Ukraine calls on Poland and Baltic states to jointly develop nuclear weapons because we have full moral grounds, said Volodymyr Horbulin, the patriarch of Ukraine's missile program. In an interview with the BBC, a coalition of neighboring countries could develop a nuclear arsenal and extend a security zone across all of Europe, the scientist believes. He suggests that could involve fourth generation nuclear weapons instead of some kind of strategic missile. It could be, for example, a bomb similar to the American B 61 thermonuclear warhead. All right, so he's calling for nations, including Poland, the Baltic nations, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, to start producing or jointly develop nuclear weapons, or maybe something similar to an American B-61 thermonuclear warhead to deter Russia. Okay, and this could be good or bad, right? Obviously nuclear weapons are dangerous, but at the same time, nations that don't have nuclear weapons would most likely not be invaded by Russia, right? If Ukraine had nuclear weapons, they wouldn't have been attacked, but because they don't, the Russians just stormed right in. And considering that Russia's a nuclear nation, I think a lot of these other nations right on the border, if they want to defend their land, they should probably have something to match that. So I kind of agree with this to an extent. But obviously, more nuclear warheads around the world is more dangerous, whether it be thermonuclear or nuclear. These are obviously very dangerous weapons. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, he's calling on Baltic nations and Poland to start jointly developing nuclear weapons to defend themselves. Now, for defense of Ukraine, overnight, Russian invaders launched a massive missile attack on Ukraine using 16 missiles and 352 strike UAVs. Ukrainian air defenders destroyed 354 aerial targets, 5 Iskander-K cruise missiles, 10 Iskander-M KN-23 ballistic missiles, 146 Shahed-type strike drones, another 196 UAVs failed to reach their targets. Ukraine needs more air defense to protect our people from Russian terror. So look at that, guys. That's a lot of drones and missiles going into Ukraine last night. 352 UAVs, 16 missiles of different types, ballistics and cruise missiles going into Ukraine. Looks like Ukraine was able to shoot down a good majority of these, but we know for sure down in Odessa that educational institution was hit by a missile. So that could be the one that wasn't shot down here. They're claiming they shot down 15 of them. And aside from that, yeah, a good majority of these drones shot down as well, because in total, 354 of these munitions that were fired into Ukraine were taken down overnight. So that's pretty good news coming out of Ukraine. Now, Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of June 23rd, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In our final update of the day, Russia's losses as of June 23rd, 1,010 troops, 5 AFVs, 127 vehicles and fuel tanks, 1 tank, 58 artillery systems, 138 UAVs, 2 MLRS, and 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems. Now, I haven't heard any reports of these. That's actually some of the most we've seen in one day, 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems. Usually we see 1 or 2 at the most. So apparently they destroyed 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems over the last 24 hours. So that's pretty major hits on the Russia side, considering that a lot of these are very expensive. So that's pretty heavy losses for them. And aside from that, I guess artillery systems up a little bit higher, 58 being destroyed over the last 24 hours. Aside from that, all these other numbers just really low and about average, if anything, of what we have been seeing recently. So there's your update in terms of Russian losses. And I want to thank you guys very much for being here for this update today, again on June 23rd, 2025 on Monday. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and thank you so much for being here. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.